Good morning. Ajara, I check if we've got a quorum.
Good morning, Chairperson. We have a quorum, thank you.
Recording in progress.
Good morning, honorable members. The leadership of the department. Fellow South Africans who are following us on platforms made available by Parliament. We are convened as a portfolio committee in the National Assembly on Communications and Digital Technologies once again today to process matters that are before the committee as the committee support flights the agenda for the meeting as I deal with also the formalities for meetings convened on this platform. Honorable members, now that we have a quorum, we'll now take, for purposes of record, we will now take apologies that have been received so that we can then proceed formally with our meeting. Comment support.
Good morning, Chairperson. We have apologies for the Minister, and then we also have apologies for Ms. Mazzoni. Thank you.
So those are the apologies. I do see on the chat that Honorable Mlala is indicating that he's in transit. So he may probably have connectivity challenges on the road, but is able to hear. I think at this point, hence he has put that apology. May I just check, honorable members, if there may be apologies that the committee support may have not received from one of the members, so that we place also those on record. It seems we don't have, and therefore I would take it that honorable members approve those apologies that have been received, one being that of the Minister and that of Honorable Mazzoni. With that having been said, honorable members, once again a reminder of the rules of engagement as approved by the National Assembly on these platforms. We are reminded that at all times we have to ensure that our mics are muted and video camera off until you are recognized by the chairperson, in which case, once recognized, you'll then proceed to unmute your mic and switch on your video camera. In situations where you are experiencing network challenges, you would indicate for the permission of the chairperson to switch off your video camera so as to maximize your bandwidth. We do know that from time to time, there would be those participants on the platform who may lose connectivity and have to reconnect. Please ensure at all times as you reconnect back to the meeting that your video camera is off and your mic remains muted, as mics are sensitive and therefore could pick up background sounds that may disrupt the meeting or distract the speaker that may be on the platform. Wise point of orders are allowed in terms of the rules. Members who are raising a point of order would have to raise the hand on the gadget in a situation where the chair is unable to see. The committee support would also assist the chair, but your mic and your camera must remain off and the microphone muted until recognized by the chair. Then raise the point of order on which the chairperson could rule upon in terms of the rules of the National Assembly. We are further guided, honorable members, that we should, of course, avoid raising unnecessary point of orders to a point that the meeting collapses on this platform. With that having been said, if we keep those rules, honorable members, that should assist us in having a qualitative meeting. That's cool. I'd asked the committee support to flight the agenda. I do take note of what the Deputy Minister has put on the chat as part of the apologies that would want to be listed 10:30. Of course, I've asked that the agenda be flighted for one simple reason, that these are the items we have, honorable members, for today. And I take it that you've had an opportunity to go through them, first being the bill and the SABC presentation that you would have received, as well as the minutes. So without removing any item on the agenda, I want to guide from the chair's side so as to maximize the time we have, taking into account that members would also be traveling, some of them for the house sitting at a particular time, but also that on the platform, we also have the SABC, and we would also want to release them and not keep them on the platform whilst they also need to go and implement things were asked to be implemented. So I just want to guide by indicating a change just in the order, not on the items being removed. That we start with the SABC presentation, so that presentation is engaged and we would be able to release them, so that then we are left with committee items that may not need them to be on the platform, which is the deliberations of the committee on the bill and the adoption of the committee minutes. So that's how I would want honorable members to guide the discussions, so that we are qualitative but also very effective with the usage of time and those that are coming before the committee. So that's how we would want to guide. I take it that Deputy Minister and the team would be ready to proceed with that change in the order of the items. Can I get an indication, Deputy Minister?
Yes, Chair, we are ready to proceed.
So we will take that, but like I said, honorable members have also had an opportunity of going through the presentation. Shortly after your brief remarks, Honorable Deputy Minister will then give about 25 minutes for them to take us to the selling points of the presentation that they want to emphasize to the committee. Over to you, the Honorable Deputy Minister. The platform is yours.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Please accept my apology. I've got difficulties with the network, so please accept my apology for not sharing the video. You know, I always...
Yes, you always You always appear to know where you're connected from.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks for the indulgence, Chairperson. Let me pass my greetings to yourself, Honorable Chair, and all the honorable members of the Portfolio Committee, to the leadership of the SABC, the board and the executive, and officials from the department. Chair, we are accompanying the SABC to the Portfolio Committee to present their corporate plan for 2023, 2024 to 2025, 2026. That was developed and submitted by the new board in line with Section 52 of the PFMA. This tabling of the corporate plan was delayed, as we know, Chairperson, because we had to give an opportunity to the new board to finalize, develop the plan and submit to the ministry, which was done, and the minister did table the corporate plan in terms of the required legislation to Parliament. I think as we engage with this plan, Chair, we need to be also mindful of our discussion when we were introducing the SABC bill and the comments we made there about the changing broadcasting landscape in the country, which has brought some difficulty to the SABC, which we can already see by the declining revenues. And so the corporate plan has been developed in that environment of the declining revenue, the declining viewership, and the changes which have been brought largely by the OTT platforms, which are eating the lunch of the broadcasters in the country, and the need for everybody else to reposition to engage with the changed environment. So this is the environment in which we must interact with this corporate plan, which has been presented by the SABC. I think one thing to note, Chairperson, is the fact that as we had indicated, that the minister, when he interacted with the board and management of the SABC during the AGM, did request that it was agreed and minuted as such as a resolution of the AGM that the SABC will develop a strategy to improve the financial position, which, as we know, that despite the huge capital injection and the turnaround plan, which was implemented over 3 years, the SABC has not really managed to turn around. And as we have seen last time, they posted a net profit loss. And so the request was for the SABC to develop the strategy and to submit to the minister. And we're looking forward to receiving that new strategy, which is to be submitted to the minister by the 31st or before the 31st of November this year. And so, Chair, would like to request, because most of the details are contained in the SABC presentation, but would like to note that whilst the SABC is projecting or is planning to increase the revenue, the current position, as we know, is quite dire. The Auditor General had indicated that from a commercial point of view, the corporation is struggling, is basically technically bankrupt, if we were to put it that way. And so we welcome this corporate plan. We're looking forward to the submission by the SABC of the new strategy, which will eventually find its way to the Portfolio Committee. Chair, with that said, let's invite the leadership of the corporation to take the honorable members through. I believe the chairperson of the board is on the platform, so I'm going to hand over to him and to take us through. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, DM. Good morning, Honorable Chair, Honorable members, the Deputy Chairperson of the SABC board, the executive management led by the acting GCO, Mr. Binza. So I'll just, I think the Deputy Minister has really covered or painted the background to the presentation that we will be making. I will be handing over to the acting GCO to lead in the detailed presentation of the corporate plan. Just to indicate that, as the Deputy Minister has indicated, this plan would be the plan that the SABC would have committed to for the financial year 2023-2024. We are presenting this late out of the contextual issues that speaks to the process that led to the delay in our appointment as the board, which meant that the corporate plan to wait for the appointment of the board to be finalized for submission. Ordinarily, I believe that this would have been presented to the committee around May, and we would have then proceeded to present reports on a quarterly basis on the performance against this plan. Having noted that, I also just want to put some aspects up front in that the corporate plan having been adopted for the financial year and at around April, May, when the board was in office, there are certain commitments that will reflect on the plan, which may not necessarily any longer reflect the current status of affairs. Though those remain there because the process of changing the corporate plan has its own process rather, which has certain steps that needs to be taken and so forth. And our view as the board has been that the approach should be not to necessarily make the changes to this plan that we adopted earlier in the year, but rather to report updates on status quo that may have changed. I think a case and example here would be the Competition Commission issue with Centec, which already has been reported on, or rather the outcomes are out, whereas when you look at the report, it will reflect that we are awaiting the outcomes. Then the other aspect speaks to the projected achievements, revenue growth, amongst other things, which we now know we are not going to achieve them. But our take is that we rather report against those plans. But importantly, the main reason why we are taking a view of not making amendments to the corporate plan is that, as the Deputy Minister indicated, the board is currently involved with the management on the development of the long-term strategy for the SABC, which should address the challenges that the SABC faces now and going into the future to address, amongst other things, the financial sustainability, which happens to be the biggest challenge that the organization is facing. As the DM has indicated, we are intending to conclude that process and engage with the minister by the end of this month. And once that process has been concluded, we will then further engage with the portfolio committee on that new strategy. So then as I indicated, I will hand over to the acting group chief executive officer to then just take us through the presentation, and then we will then engage with the committee after that. Through you, Chair, I'll hand over to Mr. Binza.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the SABC board. And good morning to you, Chair, and good morning to all the committee members. I am not alone in presenting this corporate plan, Chair. I will also be joined by the Chief Operations Officer of the SABC, Mr. Ian Platjes. He will take us through the entire SABC's offering. And then also he'll take us through the strategic pillars as well as the goals of the SABC. After that, the Chief Financial Officer of the SABC, Ms. Yolandi van Billion, will take us through the budget for the year 2024 up to the financial year 2026. And then also talk to the rest of the issues around the financials, including the status on the going concern. So, Chair, as the Deputy Minister has already indicated, and the Chair of the SABC board has already alluded to, the SABC is currently operating under a very difficult market constraints, especially from the television side, which is our biggest revenue generator as the public broadcaster. There is a lot of competition in the space, and as we know, the SABC generates most of its revenues from the market. That means it goes out for advertising revenue as well as sponsorship revenues. And then the TV license costs or charges just contribute around 7%, and then the rest around 3% from any other, means of funding the broadcasting. So with the emergence of the OTT platforms, the analog switch off, load shedding, the SABC is, currently finding itself in a very, very difficult position. But this document was created at the back of what we thought at the time would actually be a competitive advantage for us. And one of the things we had done at the time of creating this plan was to launch our own OTT service, which is our advertising video on demand, which we call now the SABC Plus. That was in November last year. And some of the assumptions we had made at the time was that we should be able to monetize the platform very quickly. But unfortunately, some of the things haven't, those monetization attempts haven't been taken into consideration just yet. But the plans are in place for us to do that. But just as an update on that, it is one of, in fact, it's the biggest OTT platform now in South Africa, SABC Plus, with just over 700,000 subscribers. And the Rugby World Cup also came in handy to assist us in that regard. And now all the other attempts to monetize the platform are actually ongoing. But the COO would also, talk a lot about this. And then the CFO, of course, will talk to that. From an economic perspective, Chair, everybody knows about the current economic situation in the country. And I'm not going to dwell much on that. It's just maybe the last part on the regulatory landscape, which the Chair has already spoken to, which talks to the SABC bill, which we know it wasn't factored in here, but it has since become a factor into our operations, even though it still has to be adopted in Parliament. So, Chair, having said all of that, I will hand over now to the SABC's COO, Mr. Ian Platjes, to take us through the SABC's offering as well as some of the strategic pillars and goals for the SABC. Over to you, COO.
Good morning, Honourable Chair and members, as well as the Chair of the SABC Board and Deputy Chair and my colleagues. So the SABC have 19 radio stations, and we also have the 19th one being Channel Africa. We do that on behalf of the department, DCDT. The other 18 radio stations that we have, we do broadcast all of these things in 19 different languages. We do have excess capacity in terms of our facilities, and we do rent that out as well. On the next slide, you will see more detailed radio offerings and our reach over there. So you can see we reached 27.1 million listeners in all of the 11 official languages. So anybody not using our radio platform to obviously speak to their audience base is losing out on huge opportunities in terms of that. So we do have the largest reach in the country around that. And we do also on our video entertainment, have 6 different channels, 5 TV channels, which we rebrand to call video entertainment, and the 6th one being our news channel as well. They are all broadcast on various platforms, including DTH, DTT, analog, and then obviously our very own streaming platform, SABC Plus as well. On the next slide, I'm going to hand over to the CFO to take us through to the strategic pillars. Thanks, Chair.
Good morning, Honourable Chair and members, my Board Chair and Deputy Chair, ICO and COO and others on the platform. I will briefly take you through the rest of the presentation. So by now, our strategic pillars have remained the same for approximately 5 years. Focus on financial sustainability, content and platforms, digital, human capital, governance and partnerships. In the next few slides, we then include the key performance areas or annual performance program and its deliverables over years and quarters. I'm not going to stand still in particular detail at them. We would be happy to engage. Financial sustainability is focused on the turnaround in financial terms, working capital management, and then there's a strong focus on content and platforms and how we endeavor to deliver on our mandate. Digital, of course, we have gone some way in our digital transformation journey. And in this pillar, we deal with a number of initiatives still aligned with the goal we have there. HR, of course, a very important pillar as well. And the focus remains on embedding our performance management system and getting it consistent in the organization and maturing it. Governance is next. Of course, after the work that's been done, we are not supposed to regress on our focus on internal and external audit findings and related governance matters. And last but not least, there is a strong focus on partnerships in the MTF period we are presenting here today. Going into a bit more on the numbers then. So, of course, when this document was designed, it was in the first quarter of this calendar year. So at the time, we were still using our forecast for 2023 as the baseline. But the long and the short of it is, for the 2024 budget, the organization endeavored to secure a profit of 56.7 million rand, which was a significant increase from the envisaged loss at the time, as well as, of course, the previous financial year 2022. In revenue and expenditure terms, we were targeting 6.5 billion rands worth of revenue, a 38% growth, and we were increasing expenditure by approximately 12%. The reasons for the revenue growth in particular, it's a very aggressive revenue growth, but it made some significant assumptions around advertising revenue, OTT and sponsorship in particular, and I'll touch more on that in the next slide. You can see some peaks in the graphs below. It's a percentage growth. So the significant growth in revenue is why there's a peak in the 2024 budget and then it plateaus down. And the same with expenditure. We are particularly investing or endeavored at the time that we were going to invest in repairs and maintenance mainly that was still overdue and that needed to get attention based on the low investment over a number of years. This slide shares the picture of the performance of our net loss going into net profit envisaged over the period of the MTF, the 57 million, 122 million approximately, and then 500 million or so in 2026, all things being equal. But the trend in the past years, and also as we shared with you in our annual results presentation about 2 months or so ago, our revenue have consistently reduced. The main reason being the audience ratings that have reduced over a period of time, as much as 42% over the years under review year. In 2023, the audience rating stabilized, but of course at lower levels. The assumptions around growth in audience ratings is a very important assumption to drive the revenue in this budgeted year, 2024, and therefore also the net loss versus profit performance. We like to keep track of our single biggest expenditure line being employment cost. The graph here at the bottom shares that cost as a percentage of both revenue and as expenditure. We target for below 35%. So if you see it increase, the blue line is against expenditure. When the expenditure drop, but the employment costs do not, then it does increase as a percentage of revenue. As a percentage of expenditure, the line is a little bit more flat, but we do want it to actually be below 35%. We also simultaneously want to increase our investment in program, film, and sports rights. That's our next biggest cost driver, to be a little bit more between 25 and 30%. Unfortunately, it's often affected by affordability, and that's why that percentage is also not necessarily ideal from our perspective. A lot of detail on this slide, but it elaborates on the percentage increases from the previous forecasted financial year at the time on our main revenue streams. Advertising revenue is the single biggest one that drives the increase in revenue. Important assumptions include, as I already indicated, the assumptions around audience growth. We are driving some new client acquisition initiatives, generations of break-even scenarios or performance on S3, SAFM Radio 2000, the strategy around defending classic and growing particularly sponsorships. And of course, there is the external market that we also benchmark against the PwC Entertainment and Media Outlook report. Sponsorship revenue is the next one that shows a reasonably healthy growth based on the trends we've observed in our client base. OTT grows from a low profile or low baseline, hence a very strong percentage growth. We chose to keep license fees reasonably flat based on experience in the past years and, of course, the broader economic environment that we operate in. With channel carriage fee, at the time that we concluded our budget, we had no certainty what the outcome of the multi-choice contract negotiations will be, and as a consequence, we made no provision for it in the budget. Of course, in around early August this year, it was confirmed that the contract will be renewed, and therefore we now in-year report a positive variance there. Other revenue, other income, finance charges, large percentage increase, but from a very low base. Expenditure, I'll just draw your attention to a few of the items I haven't yet touched on. Signal and distribution remains flat mostly. We do not factor in any assumptions around what was still ongoing at the Competition Commission level at the time. Marketing cost is a significant percentage increase, but based on the prior year, our marketing agencies only came on stream sort of 4 or 5 months into the year. So that's why you see a strong percentage there. I've touched on operational costs, main reasons for that already. I have elaborated a little bit on employee cost, other than the percentage from revenue. We do try to fill some of our vacancies. We have an uncomfortably high vacancy rate, and we did make a very small cost of living adjustment provision in the financial year, both for permanent and non-permanent individuals. That is after 3 years of no salary increases. And then professional fees, etc., repairs and maintenance. You can see some more detail there if you're interested, and we can engage in Q&A. Going concern and solvency, yes, our challenges in this respect remain. Our going concern assumptions are directly linked to the performance of our commercial revenue. We are funded from revenue. We have no other funding sources. So if our revenue growth does not live up to expectations, then our going concern is under significant pressure, as we still find today. We know by now that our revenue have struggled to recover to pre-COVID levels. And yes, as much as we budget for 37% increase, it is a very aggressive assumption, and hence also the focus on the revenue improvement plan that was developed under the auspices of our new board, and which management is driving single-mindedly. The other information on this slide, I will not particularly go into detail. Suffice to say that austerity cash management continues. Our PPE has been the subject of some discussion in recent years, and that's why, and even recent weeks, and that is why we need to invest in that regardless of our financial situation, but really try to. And then at the time, our turnaround plan was concluding in terms of activities attended to. The focus is now on the growth phase that we have shared with yourselves numerous times, and particularly revenue and the struggles we have in that phase. Here, just to draw attention to a few big ticket items. Of course, liquidity, solvency, and going concern. The risk in our revenue targets because of the aggressive assumptions. And then the Competition Commission rulings, both on signal distribution and sports rights, which was not accounted for in financial terms in any shape or form. And then, of course, there's the events around the analog switch off, which not only has implications in our cost line, but is also impacting on our revenue lines. Last but not least is the must-carry agreements and the negotiations around that, which are also ongoing, but which have not been accounted for in financial terms at all. On this busy slide, all I will draw your attention to is the fact that our cost of delivering our unfunded mandate will amount to as much as 7.4 billion rand over the MTF period. Over the 4-year period, you can see here, it amounted to nearly 9.7 billion rand. Cost of mandate content alone is about 700 to 800 million per annum, or about 2 billion rand over the MTF period. And to maybe translate it a little bit into what it means practically in my VE environment. So in our prime time space, which is I think between 6 and 8 approximately, 35% of that content is mandated. So we can only commercialize about 35% is mandated, and we can only commercialize therefore about 65%. And that particular slot is our highest generating revenue slot. Looking forward, this slide just captures a few initiatives that is meant to support our goal to not only reflect our turnaround in financial terms and performance, but also in addressing some of the risks assumed in the document. And with that, GCEO and Board Chair, I will hand back to yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Yolanda. SABC Board Chair, I'm handing back to you. Thank you very much.
So, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Acting CEO and colleagues. We will then hand back to you, Chair, for further engagements.
Okay, maybe before we do that, I'd just like to make some few additions, Chairperson, to the introductory remarks that I made. My apologies for omitting this. One of the things which has been a concern to us in the ministry has been the escalating debt of signal distribution cost that the SABC owes to Centec. It has been a concern to us because this debt is escalating. As at the end of September 2023, the debt was sitting at 745 million. This is a significant figure, Chairperson, which if this is allowed to continue like this, it's going to impact heavily on the sustainability. It is already impacting heavily on the sustainability of the other entity in the department, which is Centec, and has the ability to collapse this entity. If you consider that the revenue of Centec is hovering around 1.4 billion, so 745 is almost half of the entire budget of Centec. So we are aware that there is a dispute by the SABC around the cost of this tariff that they have been charged by Centec, and the efforts that are there by the two boards to try and resolve the situation. We also are aware that recently the Competition Commission has declined to engage with the dispute that was instituted by the SAPC to the Competitions Commission. And so we're looking forward to the two boards resolving this issue in an amicable way. But Chair would like to appeal to the SAPC and the board and its management to service this debt, to service the cost of this debt. Because even if it were to be determined that the tariff is high and it has to be lowered, still the SABC will still be liable to pay this debt. So that is our plea to the corporation, that this issue needs to be attended to as a matter of urgency, because it affects the viability of both institutions. The other point, Chair, which I would like to raise is I think we need to appreciate that this corporate plan is being presented later than what it was supposed to be presented. And so as a result of that, we have got the information currently on the performance, particularly the financial performance of the SAPC. We have received the third quarter report, which we are still busy. Our officials are still busy analyzing. But in terms of the second quarter report that we've received from the SAPC, already there is my apologies, Chairperson. Already in terms of the information that we have received, there is a net loss of about 464 million year to date in terms of the second quarter performance report. So whilst the corporate plan is projecting a surplus in terms of revenue, already the information that is at our disposal in terms of the second quarter reports indicates that already there's been a net loss of just below 500 million, which I think calls for the targets to be revised, which are in the corporate plan, because the current available evidence does not it's not consistent with the figures that have been presented. So I just wanted to make that point, Chairperson, as you go into deliberations. Thank you very much, Chair. We hand over back to you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister and the SABC team. I now go to honorable members who would want to contribute on the presentation that has been put before us. I'm not sure if Honorable Kumbu is trying to raise a hand because I see your mic is unmuted.
Yeah. Yes, Chair.
I'll note you. Also see Honorable Mlala. Honorable Bojani, I couldn't see your hand, it's a bit dark on this side. Honorable Bojani, that's Honorable Mlala. So those are the three hands we have at this point. The Honorable Kumbu. Now recognized, can proceed.
Well, thank you, Chair. I was trying to raise my hands. I don't know what's wrong with I just Chairperson, just one thing. No, so Chairperson, let me first greet honorable members and let me appreciate the presentation made. Chairperson, the SABC is in a dire financial position. Now, Chair, I just want to check if there was any attempt by the SABC to get funding from the National Treasury, and if so, what was the response from the National Treasury Chair? Thank you.
Honorable President.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, honorable members and fellow South Africans. Chairperson, allow me to pick up from where the Deputy Minister left with his remark, especially when he made the note that we are dealing with a presentation where there has been a few changes in the recent past. I'm not sure if it will help us to get a supplementary report from the SABC so that at least on the matter of dealing with the figures, we are at least appraised on what is the correct status in terms of the finances, especially on the fact that the reports that we are receiving now, we are told that it does not recognize or it does not record the loss of the second quarter, which is sitting at 464 million. So I'm not sure if we should then be asking for a supplementary report, a supplementary presentation, just so that we at least have a holistic picture. And the point I wanted to make, Chairperson, about the SABC is that South Africa needs the SABC. We need a broadcaster with the mandate that the SABC has. And I strongly believe that the SABC still has a potential to be a strong brand. But when you look at the reports that we are being presented with here today, I can't help but think perhaps one of the problems, despite the load shedding, despite everything else that there has been raised here, that the SABC still needs to do more to understand who their audiences are, especially if you are within a department where the department has spent, the minister in a reply to my question had said 1.6 billion, I think, but people still go for private services for decoders because of content, when they already have the service offered to them for free. So if you are going to be offering people a service for free, and you are still not able to capture them, you are still reporting low audience ratings, I'm not sure how we can correct that, so that you already have people that need the service, but I don't know how to phrase that, but that is the point I wanted to make, Chairperson. But equally, coming out strongly from the presentations that we have received this morning, it's a great concern about the disjuncture in the legislation that governs the communication sector, that governs the SABC as a whole, especially if you are going to get a report of SABC owing a sister entity in the person of Sendek, something in the region of 754 million rands for signal distribution cost. To say, it's things that for me should have been corrected a long time ago. I think for as long as I've been in this committee, there has been an issue of a back and forth between the SABC and Centec about the correct figure, about the implications. And when the Deputy Minister talks about the implication of this step of the SABC on Centec with risking the collapse of Centec, and it really raises the alarm to say, do you save one entity at the cost of another when all entities are equally important? So I'm not sure what plans, Deputy Minister, are there to ensure that we do not come back and another time, or the next generation does not come back and say, because of the SABC debt, Centec has collapsed. How are we going to do that? Because I think at this point, it is such a critical question. And I'm very worried about the high costs of employee. The employee cost remains very, very high. And the question I have is that with the report that there's still vacancies that needs to be filled on top of the high employee cost, are there any critical positions that could assist the SABC to get out of the quagmire it finds itself that remain vacant? And what plans are there? How advanced are the plans to fill those critical positions? I can't read my own notes now, Chairperson. But I think the report also about high-level assumption on revenue budget at 37%. Is that reasonable? What sort of guarantees are in place? And what would be the shortfall if you don't get to 37? And what would be the implications if you don't get to a 37%? And equally worrying, Chairperson, is the reporting that there is a failure to maintain liquidity by the SABC, with everything else said, to say, we are never going to get to a point where we get an audit report that is satisfactory, that is going to impress the market, so that at least there is some revenue that is pumped into the SABC by people who have confidence in the SABC. And I would love to also hear, I don't think there has ever been a formal communication in the portfolio committee about the official date of the analog switch off date. What I have seen in the media is December 2024, which has been a moving of the goalpost over and over again. What assurance, what is the correct date, so that at least we speak authoritatively on this? And what assurance do we have that it is going to actually happen on the set date? And in the meantime, when the SABC comes to the portfolio committee and still report on the analog switch off impacting its revenue lines, how do we balance that? How does the minister, how does the department, the SABC, plan to balance that out for the sake of ensuring that the SABC does not collapse other entities? And let me pause there for now, Chairperson. Thank you.
I'm not sure if Honorable Mlala is able to come in now. Honorable Majoji, I see your hand. You are raising your hand now. Honorable Mlala.
Thanks, Chair. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, yes.
Okay, no, thanks, man, Chair. I think, Chairperson, I'm a bit worried about the extension of the discussion on the corporate plan after what the Deputy Minister has presented. I thought Honorable Bodlana will stop there, because for me, what the Deputy Minister raises is that the same corporate plan that is presented today, in his view, it should be reviewed. Maybe Honorable Bodlana says supplementary presentation, but in the words of the Deputy Minister, after the recent developments on the third quarter report, which suggests there's a net loss of about 400 to 500 million, on top of what they are owing to Centec. My proposal, Chair, would be, why can't we give SABC 2 weeks to go back, relook into all these issues that are raised, so that when they make a presentation, possibly before the end of this term, we are able to get the details, because I'm a bit worried that we are moving backward and forward on the SABC. Maybe we can have a concrete suggestion that looking at the dire situation in the SABC, why can't then Parliament get on fold and start engaging Treasury on this dire situation? Because the reports may say things are looking good, but after what the Deputy Minister said, really, we're facing a serious crisis. Now, for me, I would propose that instead of us engaging something that the Deputy Minister already has indicated, that look, this thing, the indications are that it's not even gonna work. Now, why proceed with the engagement rather than give the SABC a chance to look into the issues that the Deputy Minister is raising, looking into the projected net losses, and work out maybe some amendment or whatever, but new plans that would be presented to Parliament, because it looks like we're just being presented and there's this development that is not taken into consideration. Remember, we are considering the fact that this report was supposed to have been presented May. Now, time has run over the report. Now, I'm agreeing possibly with the Deputy Minister that maybe let's reserve this comments and allow the SABC maybe in the next two weeks to work out, look at all those issues that are raised, and then come back to Parliament. That would be my concrete proposal, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Honorable Mlala. Honorable Machozi, I had noted your hand. You are now recognized. Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Good morning to all honorable members. DM, thanks, Chair. Honorable Mlala must not now drive how we are supposed to engage, but nonetheless, I am not there. On the presentation, Chairperson, mainly this one, I think, even if the SAPC could respond, but maybe the DM will give us a clear picture of how exactly is the SAPC supposed to survive. On the presentation, Chair, on the unfunded mandate, the SAPC is expected, or the estimate, to spend over 7.3 billion over the MTEF, and 35% of that, it is content carried out by the SAPC, and 65% of that it can be commercially exploited, yes. But when we look at the funds, the grant that the SAPC gets from government, it's only 3.2% of the grant, whereas the salary bill of the SAPC on its own, it's over the threshold. Number two, there's a debt that must be paid to Centec of over 700 million, and we are expecting SAPC to sustain itself. So it leaves one wondering that, which means we are just fighting a losing battle. I mean, if we are expected to spend so much on unfunded mandates only, which means we are going nowhere slowly, Chairperson, and we must just then accept that we are going to keep on having bailouts after bailouts after bailouts up until we really get a concrete way of making sure that we deal with all these obstacles that are there. That is why I'm saying SAPC can respond, but mainly this one, maybe it's on DM, to say how then do we expect that SAPC must be able to be financially sustainable when they've got a salary bill of this high, and also the unfunded mandate as well requires that SAPC must also spend billions on that, whereas they are only getting 3.2% of their total income on government grant, really it leaves one wondering whether we want these SOEs to survive or not. Maybe the TM can explain further on how then do we move away, and also maybe let us be frank, Chairperson, today, and the SABC must tell us, will they be able to pay the debt that they are in with Centec? Is it something that they can do over the years, or they do not have funds at all? Even if when you look at the projections, maybe they will tell us when they look at their projections if it's something that they can do or what is expected that should be done so that they are able to pay that debt. Because we must get a clear picture of where we are now and where are we heading from here. So those are the two concerns I had, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Majosi. I would give to the Deputy Minister and the team if there are matters they want to respond to immediately. Otherwise, it's quite clear that we may need to have a discussion again. But if there are those that you want to clarify, Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Just 3 questions which I would like to attempt to respond to them. The first one by Honorable Gumbu, whether the SABC has submitted a request for additional funding from Treasury. The answer is yes. The SABC has requested us, the department and the ministry, and we have agreed with them. We have submitted a request to Treasury for 1.5 billion. And basically the argument there was that because of this macro environment that the SABC has painted, operating under the environment of analog switch off, and the need for the SABC to make sure that the coming elections are being covered. So we've submitted a motivation to Treasury for 1.5 billion. As you know, when the minister was tabling the medium-term budget policy statement, that allocation was not accepted. So we didn't get what we requested from Treasury because of the dire economic situation which was painted by the minister during the financial year, that there's even for the allocations that were made in the 2020 in the budget that was presented in February, March, there's been reductions from the baselines of all the departments. So there is no new allocation to the SABC. We are still engaging with them. We hope that probably maybe the next budget, when it's been presented, Treasury will respond positively. But for now, there is no positive feedback from Treasury on the allocation. And maybe I must also deal with the question of please help me quickly, Chair, Honorable Majosi. Yeah, the question of Honorable Majosi. Honorable Majosi, we share the same concerns as yourself about the sustainability of the SABC. You would recall that we supported the turnaround plan, which was implemented with the hope that it will indeed turn around the fortunes of the SABC. But as we all know, that turnaround plan never really turned around the finances of the SABC. We are back to where we were, not if not worse position than when we started with the bailout. So clearly there are some fundamental interventions that we have to make. So we we're looking forward because the SABC is an independent entity. We cannot interfere much. There is a board that is in charge of the SABC. We're looking forward to receiving the turnaround plan from the new board, which the chairperson has confirmed that they are working on. They will be submitting to the minister before the end of November. So we're looking at that, where we're going to have a serious engagement with the broadcaster. And if the need be, we'll then come back to Parliament to indicate exactly what are the interventions from a structural point of view, from a revenue point of view. But also we hope that the SABC bill that we tabled in this Parliament, in this committee, will help us to make those necessary interventions, particularly as it relates to funding the public mandate. Because the current funding mechanism, which is the TV licenses, has proven not to work. As we said last week, that the evasion rate is quite high. People are not paying for TV licenses. So, and that was the mechanism to fund the public service mandate. So the new SABC bill proposes a different mechanism, which we hope that it will help the public broadcaster. But also on the regulatory side, because there are a number of things that from a regulatory point of view, we need to relax them so that we can unleash the potential of the SABC, particularly the commercial side, as we're proposing in the bill. So that's what I could say, Honorable Majosi. We share the concerns, and we think that there is a need for conversation with the SABC board, and we'll come back to Parliament. The last question of Honorable, help me, Chairperson, Honorable Bodlani, yes, the last question. The question of Honorable Bodlani on the analog switch off. Just a minute. Sorry about that, Chair. The last question of Honorable Bodlani on the actual date of the analog switch off. I think we have publicly pronounced on this, Chairperson. The minister held a conference, a press conference, where we indicated that there is a two-stage or a two-step approach in dealing with analog switch off, which was negotiated with the broadcasters. The first step, which was implemented by the 31st of July, was to migrate all broadcasting to be below the 698, to be below 700 megahertz. So all the broadcasting above 700 has been discontinued. So the analog broadcasting that is there, and it's not many towers, it's just few towers in the congested areas of Gauteng, of the Western Cape, and I think also KZN. So there is still analog broadcasting, but it is below the 694, so that we can release the much needed spectrum above the 700 megahertz, which has already been released to the mobile network operators. Now, for the few remaining analog transmitters, they will still continue to be in operation until the end of 2024 December, where all the remaining analog transmitters will be completely switched off. And that is something that we have announced, has been announced by the minister. And so, Honorable Bodlani, that is the position. So what excites us about this two-stage solution is that all the broadcasters have agreed to it, so there is no longer any litigation. Secondly, we are releasing the much needed high demand spectrum because we auction it, as you know, previously. So we have completely released it to the mobile network operators so that they can invest. So those are the three questions, Chair, which I thought I would respond to it. My intervention, I think, just to make the point as I close, my intervention, Chair, was to say that as we consider the corporate plan, and I don't think we should blame anybody for this, because it was done previously, and these projections were projections, as you know, every time when we plan, we do the projections. The point I was making is that these projections are now being undermined by real evidence, the real reports that is there. So it is up to yourself how we want to handle it. If there is a need to make a revision, I'm sure that could also be, you could also entertain that. But the point is that we are almost on the fourth quarter is, okay, we're on the third quarter, I think. The fourth quarter is coming to an end in the end of March next year. So already we have got information about the year-to-date information of the actual performance, both financial and performance information. And I think that is something that we should not hide away from the public, because these are public institutions. Thank you very much.
Not sure if there's any point from the SAPC before one makes the summary.
Yes, Chair. Thank you very much. Maybe just a short input. Indeed, the reflections by the Deputy Minister are correct in that the plan would have been, as indicated earlier on, would have been something that should have come to this committee much earlier in the year. And then at this point, we should be submitting those quarterly reports to reflect the performance, which the Deputy Minister referred to. So where we are, I think I would just want maybe guidance from the committee, because there are two ways to deal with this. We, as the Deputy Minister correctly states, we are already approaching the end of Q3. So we can revise the corporate plan to reflect the reality on the ground and our projections towards the end of the financial year. That's an option. Or the other option is to leave the corporate plan as it is, but report on the realistic performance against that plan, and also reflect on interventions that are being implemented to try and improve the situation in the remaining quarters to the end of the financial year. Either way, whether we are revising the corporate plan or we are reporting on quarterly performance and interventions to improve the situation, those we would be ready then to come back to the committee and report on. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy Minister, and SABC team is led by Board Chair. I think what's important about the discussion is that the SABC would leave with an understanding of how members think about some of the areas that they would have highlighted in the presentation, so that when they come back before the committee, they are able to close those gaps. But I think there's a point raised by Honorable Mlala, which I think in a way Honorable Matosi came to that. The reality that as we speak, if no intervention is made, and that intervention would have been probably the application you've made of which was not part of what the minister would have announced, is this understanding that we make the point that it is a national public broadcaster, but the financial expression of policy does not say that, as reflected in the presentation. And therefore this justifies, I think, pursuing the matter, even with appropriations and finance. But we know now in the main it is appropriations, given the journey we had on the SAPO. So probably that's one concrete point we should make. That whilst you pursue that at an executive level, but the committee still also needs to give support to avoid what we had with SAPO. That you made the intervention very late, and that intervention becomes meaningless because it doesn't turn around the situation anymore. Now, given the period we are in, we've spent time on this. There are independents that are being brought in. There's a lot of coverage that would be needed, especially if the opinion that seems to dominate the narrative out there is said to be a highly contested election ever. So you need the SABC that's on point. And as I said, I think the question to be answered would be that whilst a bill is before Parliament, but in the immediate period, that commitment of the SABC being a public broadcaster should also be shown in the financial expression of policy, which is bad. So at least there's the argument on that, so that the committee can also start the process from the side of the committee to try and make sense to the Treasury and the committees that are dealing with budgets, which confirms, as I said, everything has to be done to ensure that you don't have a limping SABC going to the elections. It's important for our democracy if we are to protect it. The other point really is that there's sense of agreement again that we need necessarily an alignment to the current realities. This alignment, chair of the board, would not be just an issue of a quarterly report and then look at the quarterly report and then say, look, this is what we're intervening towards the end of the year. We have to align this with what you would have produced by end of November. It can mean giving you a week before we take a break, we get permission to convene the SABC. Because the alignment must take into account that you've presented to this committee in camera 2 levels. One was the temporary intervention, what we call the stopgap measure, to try and complete the financial year, being able to meet the basics. And that secondly, you were to also look at your 5-year term, which is then your long term. And that's what will be completed by end of November from the reports you gave us at the time. So that has to be factored in the corporate plan, because that's what we'll have for the next 5 years. Of course, we do expect that the matters raised by members here about cost of employees and so on are addressed. And I must hasten to caution as the custodian of resolutions we take in the committee that we had an issue with cost of employees, that the total operating model its first target was the workers through the 189. And we had issues there. And quite clearly, as we speak, if the cost of employees is still high, the simple way will be to go that route. And it has not worked, at least we have evidence. Instead, you may have overworked employees, irrespective of that amount that is reflected because your revenues are very low. So it means you don't have another way of dealing with this matter except to raise revenues so that in percentage terms, that cost of employees would not be bigger, right? And of course, having described the environment you're working in, you are likely going to have a lot of commissions anyway from other players in the sector. So keeping that you have is also going to be important. So either way, you would need the home bodies to deliver on all those programs. So coming back, I think that's what we would be expecting. That the starting point is not to say retrenchment, which has already failed, because we're still having that cost of employees high. So coming back, you need to look at that. But the Centec issue, it's an important one. The Deputy Minister has also raised it, that you also need to see on how you are servicing that debt. We've raised this thing at the time of the bailout, that quite a huge amount of money went to servicing that debt, but it did not give guarantee of your ability to be able to service current accounts going forward, right? So once you talk debt, which is still an issue that's discussed, an indication of how the interventions at least guarantee current account that is paid instead of accumulating debt in that score. So that you see that there's containment of the situation there. So it can't just be on the quarterly report. I'm sure you now get that point. We should be satisfied that the plan works. And I'm raising this because in the slide, as correctly said, you are reporting as though it's a matter before the Competitions Commission. And we now know that the Commission has ruled against the SABC, that there's no issue. So even if you are to appeal the matter at another level, there's a decision that stands from the Competitions Commission that there's no issue even to refer to the tribunal. So the planning, therefore, must not be abstract. The context must be understood, that you have a decision, and therefore the projections you have must take that into account. Of course, if you do appeal at another time and win, it can only be positive for you. But if you appeal and still lose, you would have not dealt with the situation at the time you needed to deal with from a point of reality. No. So we need that quite clear on the plan when you come back in December, because we think you would have had an opportunity to engage even the shareholder, but on the other side, the committee and the ministry and the department would have also been complementing each other too, on the part of ensuring that Treasury or the Minister of Finance does give us an ear to avoid what happened. We have had many announcements that we're waiting for. By the time it really came, it was not helpful anymore, given the problems in some. So I would want us to leave the meeting then with that understanding, so that you work on this and come back to the committee, everything aligned, as I say, including the plans we presented in camera. I hope that's Dear Deputy Minister, unless there's an issue that you thought you'd clarify that misplaces the summary.
No, thank you, Chairperson. I think you've summarized it. We take we take cue from your directives that you will need some more interactions, revision of some of the issues. So we will do exactly that, Chairperson. Thank you very much for the feedback.
Oh, thank you, Deputy Minister and the team. Like I said, honorable members earlier, we would not keep the SABC and the Deputy Minister on the platform. I know the DM said at 12:30, at least still has 5 minutes. So, but we still not want to keep you on the platform when we deal with the bill and the minutes, if you don't want to be on the platform. So we'll take you to have been released officially as we proceed. Otherwise, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Ajira, comment support.
Yes, Chairperson, we are here.
We're now back on the agenda, and then we'll tackle the bill. May I check if legal is back on the platform? I was informed that we would have Mr. Dekana from legal.
Yes, Chairperson, Mr. Dekana is on the platform.
Okay, and there was also to be a representative from State Law Advisor. I check if we have that sorted.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm on the platform.
Oh, Ms. Mhlulu.
My name is Oliswam Mhlulu, Principal State Law Advisor.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mhlulu. The understanding I have is that today we again go through the bill, having gone through our reports, the responses from the department. We'll now go through the clause by clause on the bill. Mr. Dekana, that's still the understanding, right?
Good morning, Chairperson, and good morning to the honorable members and my colleagues. Yes, you are correct, Chairperson.
Okay. I'll ask comment support to adopt the bill.
I'm sharing the bill, Chair. Are you able to see it?
Okay. I take it that honorable members to see on their side, I do see South African Post Office SOC Ltd amendment bill as introduced in the National Assembly, proposed as a Section 75 bill. Explanatory summary of the bill and prior notice of its introduction published in Government Gazette number 48149 of 28 February 2023. And as it said, the English text is the official text of the bill from the Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies. As can then get to the bill. Okay, let's start there on top, because then that helps, I think, in the reading of the bill, the general explanatory note, so that as we get to the text itself, we understand that the words in bold, in square brackets, indicate omissions of existing enactments, and the words underlined with a solid line indicate insertions in existing enactment. Yes, I hope this would help as we read the bill. Looking at the object of the bill itself, is to amend the bill is to amend the South African Post Office SOC Ltd Act 2011 so as to provide for the revised duties and expand on the mandate of the South African Post Office as provided for in this Act and the Postal Services Act of 1998. Provide for the repurposing of the post office infrastructure so as to provide diversified and expanded services and exploit the infrastructure capacity to extract value and forge partnerships with other stakeholders. To provide for the revised governance structure of the South African Post Office. To provide for the establishment, appointment, and functions of the Stamp Advisory Committee, and to provide for the matters connected therewith. Be it enacted by Parliament of the Republic of South Africa as follows, and I'm now getting to the amendments. The expectation would be that the members will then talk to each of the amendments. Where there's agreement, I'll get that indication. If there's an issue to be raised, at least the member would raise a hand and be able to speak that issue. The amendment of Section 1 of Act 22 of 2011, as amended by Section 1 of the Act 38 of 2013. 1. Section 1 of the South African Post Office SOC Ltd Act 2011, herein referred to as the Principal Act, is hereby amended on paragraph A by the substitution for the definition of the department, following definitions. Quote, the department means the Department of Communication, as you will see the line there, and digital technologies. Can I get an indication on paragraph A, if there's any matter, or should I take as agreed?
Chairperson, just park there for a minute. I'm just trying to make sure I'm on the same page with you.
Okay, Honorable Bolani. We are on that page where it talks to amendment of Section 1 of Act 22 of 20. We are now on definitions. Then we are on the department on paragraph A of that section. Are you on the page, Honorable Bolani, on your notes?
I am, Chairperson, but let me not hold the committee up. I'll come back. I'm just trying to also find my place on my notes.
Okay. May I get a sense there, members, so far, that there's agreement on definition to align it to the current department, as it's called? I want to move to paragraph B, but I want to get an indication, honorable members, that there's a sense of agreement there. I do know the point made by Honorable Bolani that if there may be a point you want to come to.
Ms. Bolani has hand up, Chairperson.
Chair.
Honorable
Chair, and I'm going to ask for your guidance in case my comment is misplaced. But I wanted to make a point on the issue of financial services to say my feeling is that the financial services, the line on
okay, no, that's on paragraph B. I just want us to be sure that paragraph A, we are fine with the department in that way. Honorable Mtakane?
Honorable Chair, I think is what captured in terms of our understanding what we were trying to do.
Thank you, Honorable Takane. Take it that we agree there. Let's get to paragraph B. That's why you were raising an issue, Honorable Bojani.
Yes, Chairperson.
After the definition of remember of the following definition, financial services means financial services, which include, amongst others, money transfer and remittance, payment, and prepaid services, sale, and any other financial services the minister may deem from time to time. You are now recognized, Honorable Bola. Make that
Thank
point.
you so much, Chairperson. Chairperson, I appreciate the insertion of the explanation of the financial services. My issue comes in the last sentence where it says the minister may determine from time to time. It is my view that the bill on its own just gives the minister too much power. And if we are going to talk about financial services being determined by the minister from time to time, the only comfort you have with that is that there's legislation that governs what financial services is in the country. But I'm not sure if the inclusion of that last sentence is necessary without giving the minister too much power. I do appreciate that the first part of the sentence corrects the vagueness of the previous version, which just spoke about financial services. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Bolani. Any other member? Want to speak on that matter?
Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mdagane. I think it's you.
I'm sorry, Chair, just come in here. I'm trying to press the participant. It doesn't work with me here. No, Chair, I do think that it is captured well in as far as I'm concerned, because the minister, by and large, are accountable to the committee. Whatever the minister does or a department does, it would be presented to the committee for agreement. That is my understanding of the totality of this paragraph. That is assisting us where there are situations where there should be urgent matters that the minister must attend to. He or she is able to do that and will report back to the committee as a committee that is exercising oversight over the department. I do think, Comrade Chair, in my view, is not contradictory at all. It can assist us to ensure that they speed up the decision-making processes in the department in order for us to have a very functioning post office in South Africa. Thank you, Chair. That would be my input on this item.
So, with that point raised by Honorable Takan, I think Honorable Bolani in any way was raising this from a point of concern that once there's too much power, probably an abuse of that power. But I think as Honorable Takan puts it, it's really to ensure that the executive that oversees this entity is able to act accordingly. And of course, in doing that, that checks and balances now in the country, that you will not make any decision that's illegal, because that decision would be challenged. This includes abuse of power once it goes outside. Once you exercise power that goes outside the bounds of the law, you must expect to be challenged. But we must also make the law to be such that there's functionality. We want to make that persuasion, Honorable Bolani, that we also apply on the other prescripts of the law to cap such. But we must also make it a point that there's functionality as we put the law. Can I then move on an understanding that we agree on that B as we move to paragraph C? Can I get a sense, members, that we agreed that we move to the next? That's how you are going to assist me from the point of being the chair. Is that when there's the agreement, at least I get that indication, and then we move to the next. So in that way, we'll be able to conclude our work in time.
Agreed on C, Honorable Chair.
So B is agreed. We now move to C.
Chairperson, can I come in?
Yes, Honorable Butler.
Clarity, Chairperson. I'm engaging on the bill, but our position on the bill is clear. So when I say agreed, I'm not agreeing to the bill. I'm agreeing to moving with the process. Thank you, Chair. And I agree.
No, Honorable Butler, you know it starts. But I just want to be sure that we're moving together. So there's agreement that B has been clarified. We have filed. Of course, we note your position on the bill totality. We now
Honorable Chair.
Yes, Honorable Dagan.
I'm sorry again to disturb you, Honorable Chair. My understanding, is it correct that Honorable Bodlane at the principal level there's a position as a party, but she's agreeing with the wording, not with the bill? Is it my understanding, Comrade Chair?
Yes, Honorable Dagan. The position of the party is one thing, and the chair agrees we move on the basis of the wording there and move to the next one. But the position on the bill will record that at the end because they have a party position. We can now move to C. By the insertion of the definition of called Public Finance Management Act of the following definition: one, services points means any infrastructure where the post office service can be accessed from. STEMP Advisory Committee means the STEMP Advisory Committee established by Section 14, capital letter A, subsection 1. And universal postal services means the universal services defined in the license issued in terms of Section 16 of the Postal Service Act. I will then check with members if we're satisfied with C, paragraph C.
Yes, Chair.
Can move then to the next. Amendment of Section 2 of Act 22 of 2011. I will talk to the objects of the Act. Section 2 of the Principal Act is hereby amended by deletion of the word, as you see in brackets there, and at the end of paragraph D, by substitution for a full stop at the end of paragraph E as you see there, and by addition of the following paragraph, which is paragraph F, expand the objects and mandate of the post office to include services that respond to the needs of the users and customers. Can I get an indication if we're still agreeing with that wording and intention of the bill?
Honorable Chair.
It's agreed. Can then move to the amendment of Section 4 of Act 22 of 2011, which is the duties and mandate of post office. Section 4 of the Principal Act is hereby amended as follows, starting with paragraph A, by the substitution for the heading of the following heading: duties and mandate of the post office. I'm sure you do see the insertion there. Can I get Again, an indication if there's agreement.
Agreed, yes, Chair.
Agreed, Chair.
Okay. Paragraph B, by deletion in subsection 1 of the word and at the end of paragraph K. That agreed?
Agreed.
Okay, we now move to paragraph C. By the substitution in subsection 1 for paragraph L of the following paragraph, and then paragraph L, and so compliance with international commitments relevant to the postal, as you see, then there will be omission of industry. And then the insertion that follows, and related industries in the provision of postal, courier, and other related services to the extent that is permitted by domestic laws and as we get to D. So can I get an indication on C?
Agreed.
Agreed.
We now move to paragraph D. Paragraph D. By the addition after paragraph L of the following paragraphs, starting with M, provide logistics and e-commerce services and serve as logistic partner for e-commerce and other logistic players, including SMMEs and informal traders. Can I get an indication on M?
Agreed, Chair.
Can I come in, Chair?
Honorable Bojani.
Chairperson, I think this insertion for me appears to be a bit vague, and it does not necessarily give an indication that it has been given exactly what this entails and how this will enter the digital space. And I'm not sure if the bill really clarifies what the difference would be between this and the Digitech website that is already created, especially when you talk about being a digital hub and when you already have SAPO struggling with its mandate. And I do appreciate that this is a what's the word, strategy, a revision of the direction that SAPO is taking in terms of business strategy. But for my part, I feel that it is adding a mandate that is not necessarily going to assist the process. So please note my objection on that.
Yeah. I think we'll note the objection, but I think from your last point on the input you've made, I think it's what gets to be important in that, yes, every reason to look at the current realities of SAPO, but the intention here is to be futuristic in terms of the post office would want to see. But like I'm saying, that objection is noted. But can I get an indication from other members if we agree, so that we get to the next point, which commented on already?
We are agreeing, Chair, noting the point that is raised.
Okay. On N, serve as a digital hub for business and communities. Like I said, I've noted that Honorable Bodlani was also speaking to this line. May I then get an indication if we agree to move to O?
Agreed, Chair.
Great. We then move to O. Serve as a designated authentication authority that also fulfills its role as a national trust center in the age of digital identity and services. Can I get an indication of agreement on that?
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed. We now move to P. Serve as a hub for government services and other agency services. Can I get an agreement on that?
Agreed, Chair.
On paragraph Q, provide different services at the post office and service points. So that I can't, service points based on the needs assessment for a particular area and to ensure the effective usage and enhancement of the retail offerings and services. Can I get an indication?
Ms. Bodlani, Chairperson.
Honorable Bodlani.
Chair, I'm on. Thank you so much, Chairperson. Chairperson, my interpretation of this is that there would be a different cost at the respective post office branches. And for my part, I think there is a sense of people who are going to be left unfairly prejudiced, and some users depending on where they live. So I'm not sure how we are going to approve that when it just perpetuates a sense of equality. Thanks, Chair. Inequality.
I think you are correct by equality.
Very incorrect, Chair.
By equality, you are correct. But that's the point raised by Honorable Bolani. Any other member wants to contribute on that point? Yeah, if there's no further contribution, but surely my understanding, because we are linking this to also the post office of tomorrow strategy, I think the understanding here is to really make the point that depending on the area, necessarily, it's not just about post offices, but it's about putting access to the postal services, and that's why you have 7 points in other areas. I think as per the strategy, you would know that in some spaces you'd look at getting mobile services. In some spaces, like in the urban spaces, your presence in malls may not mean just a building, but from a point of mobile, whilst others may be having these physical offices as the only entry point of public service in such spaces. I don't think then in that way it creates inequality because you are given the service on the basis of the requirements and the needs of that space. But we'll note your point, Honorable Bodlani.
Well, I had my hand up, Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, just as a parting shot, Chairperson, I think the comment you are making would have made a better argument if we did not have as many SAPO offices, as many SAPO branches closing, because what you are sponsoring now is that there will be mobile branches and whatever, something that we have not seen as a mitigation, as a stopgap measure, as it were, in the current status that SAPO is facing. So I do not believe that what you are sponsoring is something that can really happen in reality. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, no, like I said, Honorable Bodlani, your arguments in the main are based on the post office governed by the legislation we are amending. We are now looking at futuristic approach, and that's why I'm saying the post office of tomorrow doesn't look at today, but goes beyond today, and that's why these changes are being proposed. But like I'm saying, we've noted your point. If I can get an indication, honorable members, that we agree to this point and move to R.
Agreed, Chair.
On R, continuously adjust its business model in line with the technology and industry development in the provision of postal services and other services, and to enhance the provision of universal service obligations, including the rollout of service points and the use of third-party infrastructure and other related services subject to the approval of the minister. On R, committee support, you'll assist me if there's a hand, because I can't see now on the side. If no hand, can I get a sense that there's agreement on that, which amplifies point 2, Honorable President? So can we get an agreement on that so that we move to S? Yes, Honorable Mlala.
Yeah, maybe before we confirm, I hope I'm not delaying the meeting, but maybe because I'm in transit, I'm missing some of the points. I'm sorry for that. On the last part, I don't think Honorable Bodlana was necessarily differing. Maybe if we should have changed the wording there, because I'm also concerned about the wording, the different services. Instead, we should be saying equitable services, depending on the area. So I think the wording there, it's worrisome. Maybe the legal advisor at a later stage, because we have already passed this bullet, must come back, and then I support I agree with the current one, but I'm just saying that would be my proposal. Maybe the legal service person can help towards the end. Thanks.
Oh, we are on R, Honorable Members. We note that point made by Honorable Mlala that he may have missed the discussion.
The Honorable Chair.
Yes, Honorable Dagan.
I think R, as it stands, Chair, covers us very well. And also, I was conscious to say R is amplification of Q. And then to me, Comrade Chair, it flows very well and is assisting us to develop areas that there are no development, because we are looking beyond the point that we're making. We are looking beyond the bill being passed by the National Parliament on how we are going to be dealing with some of the issues. Your post office of the future is this one exactly what we are trying to build, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Members. With R having been agreed, we'll move to S, paragraph S.
Agreed, Chair.
To ensure the implementation of national address system and development and maintenance of national address database. I take it that you are agreeing to S, Honorable Bodlani.
Yes, Chair.
If there's no objection, we then move to paragraph T. Provide any business that is responsive to the needs of the users, customers, and citizens, and exploit the infrastructure capacity to extract value and forge partnerships with other stakeholders with the approval of the minister. That's the objective of the bill. Agreed?
Agreed, Chair.
Thank you, Tembu.
Chair, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Dagane.
Honorable Chair, I think we have always been encouraged that we should use simple language. I don't think and exploit the infrastructure capacity. We can have a better, simple language, because laws that we are making, Comrade Chair, are not meant for us or for them, for those who are lawyers and interpreters, but it's meant for the masses of our people. They should be able to understand exactly what we mean by that. If there's a simple word from the Chair that can be used instead of exploit, I think to me I would behave about that. Because my understanding that the law that we are making should not be ambiguous. They should be so clear to those who are not as educated as the rest of the society. There's a point here that I'm making general for every wording that we are putting forward. Was told that simple English is much better than a very complex way of writing the law. But that's a point that I'm making, Chair. I'm not saying that we shouldn't approve it, but I'm just making as a point that we have to note as we move on.
I'm sure legal is listening. They can assist at this point, but it's not an objection to the actual clause, which is, as I said, it's in the object of the act that we started with, the object of the bill up there. But Honorable Mutakane is having discomfort with exploit, given our history, that he doesn't want to beg exploitation with different interpretations of what it is. So I just want to check if legal has got any issue maybe to clarify on that. If we were to change, I'm saying leverage from on the infrastructure capacity, maybe the same, but different wording. Mr. Tejana and Ms.
Oh, sorry, Chairman, I'm a bit lost, I'm going to confess, because
Yeah.
the only wording I had noted was in respect of paragraph Q, when Mr. Mulala, if I'm correct, spoke about provide different services as opposed to equitable services. Now I see that you are talking, is it exploit in paragraph T?
Yes, in T. Yes, that was the wording was talking about, but of course that includes what you've raised on the previous one.
Okay, so may I suggest that I note this, Chair, and then come back at the end?
Okay, no, that's fine.
Okay.
Otherwise, T is agreed, so that there's clarity.
Yes,
Just
yes.
if about it. Okay. Then we now move to amendment of Section 7, Act 22 of 2011. Section 7 of the Principal Act is hereby amended. Paragraph A by the substitution for subsection 1 of the following subsection. That's where subsection 1 is. Parliament may fund the normal expenditure of the post office to ensure universal postal services and any other social mandate services as determined by the minister out of money appropriated for the purpose. On subsection 1, on paragraph A, can I get an agreement on that?
Yeah, I agreed, Chair. This is very progressive.
Agreed. Paragraph B, by the addition after section 4 of the following subsection, subsection 5, government institutions, which include national and provincial departments, national and provincial government components, and municipalities are encouraged to utilize post office infrastructure in the delivery of their services and set aside certain services to be provided by the post office to assist in eliminating over-reliance on government funding by the post office and ensure efficient utilization of post offices. Can I get an indication?
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed. Now move to the amendment of Section 8 of Act 22 of 2011 as amended by Section 3 of Act 38 2013. On Section 8 of the Principal Act is hereby amended, paragraph A, by the substitution for the subsection 2 of the following subsection. Section 2, the board consists of, paragraph A, not more than 9, as you see 10 is now with 10, and not less than 5 non-executive members appointed in terms of Section 11. Indication on that A, on paragraph A.
Happy, Chair.
Agreed. We now move to Paragraph B, by the substitution for subsection 3 of the following subsection. Subsection 3, the chairperson, as you see, there's omission now of the deputy chairperson, must be appointed by the minister from the non-executive members of the board. Can I get an indication? That point is agreed.
Agreed, Chair.
Great. On C, by the substitution for subsection 4 of the following subsection, which is subsection 4, the board may designate any other non-executive member to act as chairperson. As you see, both is now omitted. If the chairperson and the deputy chairperson is omitted, so if the chairperson is absent or unable to perform his or her functions, they are omitted. Can I get an indication?
Agreed, Chair.
Kumbu. Now move to paragraph D, by deletion of subsection 5 and 6. So you get an indication before I move to the next amendment. Can I get an indication on paragraph D before we get to the amendment? Agreed. We now get to amendment of section 9 of Act 22/2011 as amended by section 3 of Act 38 of 2013. On section 9 of the Principal Act is hereby amended by the insertion after the paragraph A of the following paragraph. You'll just check there whether it's just that I can't see with the highlight now. A capital letter A must develop a credit plan facility wherein subparagraph Roman figure 1, the post office shall enter into an agreement and negotiate payment arrangement with its creditors. And subparagraph Roman figure 2, and such plan must include evaluation of the post office debts, source funding, either from the fiscus or in the market, and appropriate steps to cancel evergreen contracts. Can I get an indication on that amendment?
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed. We now move to an amendment of section 11 of Act 22 of 2011 as amended by section 4 of Act 38 of 2013. Section 11 of the Principal Act is hereby amended, paragraph A, by the substitution in subsection 1 for the words following paragraph B of the following words. To submit within the period and in a manner mentioned in the notice the names of persons fit to be appointed as members of the board. As you see there, there's omission with due regard to section 8, subsection 5. So that is that omission, so we ended the board. On paragraph A, can I get an indication?
Approved, Chair.
Agreed. We now go to for paragraph B. By the deletion in subsection 4 of paragraph A, subparagraph Roman figure 6 of V1. Can I get an indication? Are we agreed?
Is consequential, Chair. We agreed.
Okay. Section C, so paragraph C, which is the same, by the deletion in subsection 4 of paragraph C, consequential, take it that it's agreed.
Agreed, Chair.
And paragraph D, by the substitution in subsection 7 for the paragraph A of the following paragraph. On A, the minister must appoint, subparagraph from 1, 2 non-executive members of the board from suitable persons nominated by trade union contemplated in subsection 1, paragraph B, with required skills, knowledge, qualifications, experience as contemplated in subsection 4. And Roman figure 2, and the other non-executive members of the board from suitable persons as contemplated in subsection 4. Can I get an indication on that amendment?
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed. We now move to amendment of section 12 of Act 22 of 2011, 8. Section 12 of the Principal Act is hereby amended, A, by the substitution in subsection 2 for paragraph E of the following paragraph. Paragraph E, neglected to properly perform the functions of his or her office, there's an insertion, and based on negative assessment during annual general meetings. Paragraph A, can I get an indication?
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed. And B, with is consequential by the deletion in subsection 2 of paragraph F. Can I get an indication as we move to the next amendment?
Happy, Chair.
Agreed. Then there's insertion of section 14, capital letter A to 14, capital letter F in Act 22 of 2011. So the following sections are hereby inserted after section 14 of the Principal Act. We now start on the appointment and composition of the Stamp Advisory Committee. Section 14, capital letter A, subsection 1, the minister must establish a Stamp Advisory Committee and appoint not more than 9 persons as members of the Stamp Advisory Committee. Agreed on that?
Chair?
Yes, Honorable Bolani.
With your indulgence, Chairperson, can I please be reminded? I remember last week the legal services spoke at length on this. What was the rationale behind the 9 so that I can just inform my thinking on this? I just cannot remember. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the legal would want to respond at this point, or they would note in case also my explanation would not be the exact. The understanding is that, remember, from the other amendments we've dealt with, we have moved from 10 to 9 with a minimum of 5 to be appointed.
Chairperson?
Okay.
Sorry, Chair, with your permission, sorry for being disruptive. I think for purposes of guiding the discussions, Honorable Bolani is correct. Remember, Chair, my input was in relation to the term of the Stamp Advisory Committee. Because look, even though it's a policy matter, Chair, strictly speaking, it's not a legal issue. You will see that the executive is proposing a 3-year term. And I was saying, Chair, that 3 years is too short a span.
No, I think I was, but we're not there yet on the term.
No, I thought Honorable Potlane was saying legal said something, and the only thing I said was in relation to the term.
Yeah, it was in relation to the term, the 3 or the 5. Or, yes, I still remember that. But I was just explaining the 9 that we've already dealt with that amendment on top, which takes it from 10 to 9. So as I was explaining that, and I was saying if you would want to indicate anything else as the rationale, you would be able to speak to that. But we're still getting to the one of the year, which is the period. We'll come to that. Okay.
Chair, can I beg your indulgence?
Yes, Honorable Bolani.
To allow the process on this stamp advisory to flow, and then I will make my comments to cover the whole section. Okay,
then that's fine. Then we can then move quicker on that, having dealt with the 9 issue. Let's get back. Okay. We spoke to the 9, which was subsection 1. I take it to be agreed. We get to subsection 2. The STEM Advisory Committee consists of paragraph A, 2 members appointed from the non-executive members of the board. B, 1 representative from the departments responsible for communications and digital technologies, arts, sports and culture, and basic education. And C, not more than 4 persons appointed on the basis of their knowledge, experience, and expertise in the areas referred to in subsection 8. Subsection 3, the minister must appoint a non-executive member contemplated in subsection 2, paragraph A, as chairperson of the STEM Advisory Committee. Section 4, for the purposes of appointment. Okay, I've jumped to 3. We still need to clarify on 2. 2 as paragraph A, B, and C. Maybe before I get to 3. Can I get an indication from members that we have agreement on that subsection 2?
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed. We now get to 3. Like I've read, the minister must appoint a non-executive member contemplated in subsection 2, subsection A, as chairperson of the STEM Advisory Committee. Can I get an indication on 3?
Agreed.
Agreed. On subsection 4, for the purpose of appointing the persons contemplated in subsection 2, paragraph C, the minister must, by notice in the Gazette and in 2 national newspapers, publish an invitation to the public to submit nominations for membership of the STEM Advisory Committee.
Agreed, Chair.
Are we agreed on that?
Agreed, Chair.
Okay, agreed. We now get to subsection 5. The notice contemplated in subsection 4 must specify a period of at least 30 days for nominations to be submitted to the minister. Are we having agreement on that?
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed. On subsection 6, the minister must appoint a panel to consider the nominations received in terms of subsection 5. Can we get an indication?
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed. On subsection 7, the panel must compile a short list of not more than 8 candidates to be considered by the minister and the board for appointment as members of the STEM Advisory Committee. Is that agreed?
Yes, agreed, Chair.
Agreed. Agreed.
We are now on subsection 8. The panel must ensure that the candidates, paragraph A, are representative of South African society and represent the public and private sectors, academic or research institutions, non-governmental organizations, and philately organizations, and B, have appropriate expertise in terms of in the areas of arts and culture, marketing, environmental development, education, history, graphic design, or any other field of expertise relevant to STEM design. Subsection 8, with paragraph A and B, I present.
Approved, Chair.
Agreed. Subsection 9, the minister and the board must ensure that the members contemplated in subsection 2, paragraph C, represent a sufficient spread of skills, knowledge, qualifications, and expertise referred to in subsection 8. Are we having an agreement on that before we move to 10?
Agreed, Chair.
Subsection 10, the minister must within 30 days after appointing the members publish a notice in the Gazette containing the names of the persons appointed as members of the STEM Advisory Committee. I present it to you.
Agreed, Chair.
Okay, great. On 11, subsection 11, a member of the STEM Advisory Committee contemplated in subsection 2, paragraph C, paragraph A, holds office for a period not exceeding 3 years. B, may be reappointed after his or her term of office has expired, but may not serve more than 2 consecutive terms. C, is appointed on a part-time basis, and D, must be paid from the revenue of the post office such remuneration and such allowances as may be determined by the minister with the concurrence of the Minister of Finance. That is the area, Mr. Dechana, we're talking to, which is subsection 11, paragraph A. I'm not sure you wanted now to come back to clarify that matter before members approve.
No, Chair. Look, as I said, Chair, it's not a sticky issue as far as I'm concerned. It's a policy matter. If the committee chooses 3 or 5, Chair, I mean, that's neither here nor
there.
Okay.
Honorable Chair.
Yes, Honorable Mtakane.
Well, I think the legal person is right. It's a policy matter, but my view, first, Chair, is that is a part-time arrangement. And also I see that it can't be in 2 consecutive terms. I really think 5 years, Honorable Chair, is not going to cost us money, because the appointment and the payment is based on revenues of the post office, but also as a part-time type of a body to assist and advise the minister when it arises. In my view, Chair, 5 years should be the policy position that we may support as a committee. And then to me, I think that is very clear. It's not something that is going to cost us money. It's not going to be expensive exercise to do. And then we need these people with their experience at least for 5 years. I think will assist us a lot, not again to appoint after 3 years we appoint. I think it takes a lot of effort and energy to do that. Let us, in my view, 5 years would be acceptable, unless there's really a counter argument why 5 years cannot be accessible, because it's not going to cost us resources. to have these people at a part-time basis to advise the minister when need arises. Thanks, Chair.
Honorable Orlani, because you were having a point earlier and I said we're not yet there. I'm checking if you want to speak at this point or you'd speak at the end.
I'll speak at the end, House Chairperson. Thank you.
Okay. It's the hand that I may be leaving behind. Yeah, maybe legally you would note this because last time, I think when you came up with this thing, there was this argument about 3 years and then the 5. I think from a wording point of view, whether if you put maximum 5 years for the term, does give discretion to the minister to do 3 years, or it should be specific that it's a minimum of 3 years, maximum 5 in the term, to also give flexibility to the one who executes the appointment process to look at material conditions of the time and be able to act accordingly. But with that understanding that it won't be less than 3, but it can't go beyond 5. So I'm just saying, as you'll probably come back later on other things that you've noted, you'll also guide. Otherwise, I don't think it's a big issue, as members would have indicated. I think the thinking is really about that stability that you need in the institutions, which is now on section 11, paragraph A. Otherwise, the other paragraphs are agreed to.
I can agree with you more, Chair.
Okay, so no, thank you, Honorable Mlala. So we'll get then that guide. Can we move to 12? Now that there's agreement. On 12, a member of the STEM Advisory Committee contemplated in subsection 2, subsection C, may resign by giving 30 days written notice to the minister or the board. Can we get an indication, members?
Agreed, Chair.
Great. On 13, subsection 13, the STEM Advisory Committee. The STEM Advisory Committee as that exists. Okay, let me start, because it's with the highlighter I tried to say. The STEM Advisory Committee that exists immediately before the South African Post Office SOC LTD Amendment Act takes effect continues to exist for a period of 6 months or for such period until the new committee is established and members are appointed. Present subsection 13. Can I get an indication?
Agreed, Chair. I think is procedurally correct.
Which one, Chairperson, is not highlighted?
We are on 13.
13.
Subsection 13, the STEM Advisory Committee that exists immediately before the South African Post Office SOC LTD Amendment Act takes effect, continues to exist for a period of 6 months or for such a period until the new committee is established and members are appointed. So it's agreed?
We agreed from the Chair. It's procedurally correct.
Events collapse away. On subsection 14, the members appointed under subsection 2, paragraph A and B will be serving for a period, like we said, we'll get back to this, period of 3 years, as long as they are under the employ of the organization that has nominated them, or any period as provided by the respective organization. You'd remember the issue about 3 or 5. So as we make that, then this would affect this a part, but I'm presenting the content side of it. Can I get an indication of approval?
Chair, would be a good idea if we do agree on 5 years, but it should be approved, Chair. My main worry on this one, Comrade Chair, is that as long as the organization that appointed you, we are still a member of that organization. If you leave that organization, simply means that you stop to function on the board.
So, agreed. Then let's move to 15, subsection 15. The organization referred to in subsection 2 must inform the minister when a member that has been appointed can no longer serve in the committee and provide a substitute for that member. Can I get an indication? Agreed.
Agreed.
Tim agrees. We now move to the function of STEM Advisory Committee under 14, capital letter B. The STEM Advisory Committee must, paragraph A, advise the board on the implementation, monitoring, and evaluation of phyletic strategy. B, provide for the board with advice on events and themes that may be celebrated on STEMs, and ensure that selection of themes reflects the broad spectrum of South African culture, history, environment, economic, and social development. Paragraph C, assist in identifying, articulating, and prioritizing themes for the annual STEM program and commemorative STEMs, and make recommendations to the board. And D, encourage and facilitate stakeholder participation in the development of themes for the annual STEM program. Can I get an indication on section 14, capital letter B, paragraphs A, B, C, and D?
Agreed.
Agreed. Jose, can we then move to the disqualification from membership of STEM Advisory Committee? Section 14, capital letter C, a person may not be appointed as a member of the STEM Advisory Committee contemplated in section 14, capital letter A, subsection 2, paragraph C, or remain a member if he or she, paragraph A, is not a South African or permanent resident of the Republic. B, is an unrehabilitated insolvent. C, has been declared mentally ill by a competent court. D, has at any time been convicted of an offense involving dishonesty, whether in the Republic or elsewhere. Or paragraph E, has been removed from office on account of misconduct. Can I get an indication?
Agreed, Chair.
Kumbu agrees. We now move to the removal from STEM Advisory Committee on 14, capital letter D, section 14, capital letter D. The minister may remove a member of the STEM Advisory Committee contemplated in section 14, capital letter A, subsection 2, from office. I read paragraph A, on account of misconduct. Paragraph B, on account of inability to perform the duties of that member's office effectively. C, if the member is absent from 3 consecutive meetings of the STEM Advisory Committee without the prior permission of the chairperson, except on good cause shown. or paragraph D, if the member has engaged in conduct which brings or may bring the STEM Advisory Committee or the activities of the STEM Advisory Committee into disrepute or threatens the integrity of the STEM Advisory Committee. So I present subsection 14, capital letter D, paragraphs A, B, C, D. Can I get an indication? Can I get an indication, members?
Approved, Comrade Chair.
Agreed. We now get to the vacancies in STEM Advisory Committee, which is now section 14, capital letter E, subsection 1. A member of the STEM Advisory Committee vacates office if that member, paragraph A, tenders resignation in terms of section 14, capital letter A, subsection 12, and such resignation taken effect. B, becomes subject to a disqualification referred to in section 14, capital letter C, or paragraph C, is removed from office in terms of section 14D. So that's subsection 1, paragraph A, B, and C. Can I take that first before I get to subsection 2 of 14, capital letter E? Can we get an indication if there's approval and then move?
Approved, Chair.
Great. We now move to subsection 2, paragraph A. If a member of the STEM Advisory Committee dies or vacates his or her office before the expiration of his term of office, the minister must appoint another person to hold office for the unexpired portion of the period for which that person's predecessor was appointed. Paragraph B, in making an appointment in terms of paragraph A, the minister must comply with section 14, capital letter A. Can I get an indication?
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed. We now move to meetings and recommendations by the STEM Advisory Committee. Section 14, capital letter F, starting with subsection 1. The STEM Advisory Committee, paragraph A, must meet at least 4 times a year, and B, and paragraph B must determine its own procedures to be followed at its meetings. That's subsection 1. I want us to take subsection 1 first before we get to subsection 2. And then I want to repeat paragraph A must meet at least 4 times a year. And B must determine its own procedures to be followed at its meetings. I present it to you, members.
Approved, Chair.
It's just that my reading when I was going through it, maybe legal would indicate this. My reading was that the at least seems to be minimum than maximum. And therefore, if it is like that, if you get to an abusive environment as seen elsewhere with reports, because there's a sitting allowance, your minimum is 4 meetings, so you can do 12. Whereas when 4 is the maximum, you can have less of those based on the importance of matters to be discussed, and in that way you cap that payment of allowances, which must be consented by Minister of Finance. Is that the correct one, or it means the opposite legal?
You are correct. That's a bit concerning, as you have correctly put it, because it means these people can meet even 20 times a year.
Yeah, that's my problem. That's a better
I
way
think,
of getting the allowance.
exactly, and the committee must limit this, Chair.
Yeah, I want to suggest members that instead of at least, we make it maximum.
I agree, Chairperson.
Not more than 4 meetings a year.
Yes, I agree, Chair, because let's say they meet once a quarter, Chair, once quarterly, so that's 4 times.
Yes, that's 4 times a year. So not more than 4 times a year. If they are meeting.
Chair. Chair.
Yes, is that Honorable Mashos?
Yes, Chairperson.
Yes.
Just on that note, Chair, I agree fully with you that maybe we must say a maximum of 4, but also taking into consideration, Chairperson, that you would find that there are issues that would arise as they go, and maybe they need to have a special sitting or so forth. Maybe there's a line that maybe we can put to say if the need arises for a special board meeting, or then they must request first. They must put a request first, maybe to the minister, and then if the minister then grants them, they are able to do that. So then we are able to curb it, that it will not then be just meetings just for the sake of claiming. But with the state of post office, you would not, realistically, you would not just have 4 meetings a year, because issues will arise, and it will need the board maybe to meet and so forth. Maybe if we can have a line that says, maybe if the need arises, and if the minister would then see suitable that they must have a special meeting, or that ordinary board meeting, then it must be requested, and it must be granted by him. I don't know, maybe we can do that, just to leave that space, that room, to say there are things that will come out of the blue, and we are able then to cap that. Thanks, Chair.
Honorable Dagane, because you moved on this, but I'm not sure if you are persuaded that we limit except for special meeting requests approved by the minister.
Well, Chair, I thought the first input that was given, I think there are not more than 4 meetings per year. This is an advisory committee, really. It's going to be meeting on when and where is needed to advise accordingly. I think not more than 4 times a year. I think to me it would be a correct way of doing it, Comrade Chair. Unless, of course, we want to be flexible to allow them to decide how many times they want to meet. But I think we should avoid it, Comrade Chair, given the fact that we are trying to reduce the number of meetings where the boards generally end up exploiting that at least in meeting even 20 times a year, just for maximization of some stipend or per diems. I do think, Chair, not more than 4 times a year covers us very well. I do think it also allows the minister anyway sometimes to take a decision where needs arises. But I think 4 is fine for me, Chair. I think we should try to stick to it.
Okay, I think legal will then help us with the wording. I think from a content point of view, we agree to limitation. And therefore, subsection 1 is agreed to that amendment to the original text. Subsection 2, paragraph A quorum for a meeting of the STEM Advisory Committee is the majority of the total number of the members, which is 50% plus 1. Paragraph B, a decision made by the majority of the members present at a meeting of the STEM Advisory Committee constitutes a decision of the STEM Advisory Committee. On paragraph C, the decision of the STEM Advisory Committee in relation to the STEM program and commemorative stamps must be submitted to the board for consideration and submission to the Minister for final approval. Can I get an indication?
We should agree on it.
Agreed. Okay. Before we move to this other amendment of section 17, I just want to check both legal and the state law advisor, because I've tried to go to the original or the principal act that's being amended. On the part of the board, there's clarity about the minister dissolving and the circumstances. But I didn't see it covered enough on the part of the STEM Advisory Committee, except for members as individuals, how they get removed and so on. The part I want to raise is the dysfunctionality of the STEM Advisory Committee, because those individual members who have missed 3 meetings who must be removed have also affected the quorum, which therefore means that they've been meeting but they can't make decisions, and that's dysfunctionality. But in some instances, the infighting is such that the committee becomes dysfunctional because no decision gets made, and you need to have an opening in that score for such a dissolution, which will also be aligned to a point where the minister would put interim measures. So I just want to check with yourself whether you think then what we have gone through thus far adequately covers this point that one is making now of dissolution. In case of dysfunctionality, like I'm making quorums are no longer sitting, so there's no decision that comes through, or fighting that happens that collapses the committee completely. I'm not sure if you would want to comment on that now, because for me it should have been under this section 14 to have and maybe a G of some sort. I'm not sure, Mr. Techan and Ms. Miklos, if you want to comment on that now, having gone through
Let me not monopolize the platform, Chair. Let me give it to my colleague from the state law.
That's right. Okay. Ms. Miklos, if you want to comment on that.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't get the question. What is the question, Chair?
No, the point is really about the dissolution of the STEM Advisory Committee in a situation of dysfunctionality that from process we went through, they talk more to individual members, whether it's removal or what. But it doesn't talk to dissolution like it would happen with the board. Dissolution based on dysfunctionality. Maybe they are not, you may have the members, but they are no longer attending, can't make the quorum, and therefore can't make decisions. So that's a state of dysfunctionality. Sometimes it is the files that you have there that leads to no decision that gets made. So it's not just about individuals. So you may want to remove or dissolve such a committee and put interim measures so as you go through the process that is allowed applied in the Act to get the appointment process. So I was checking that and whether therefore you think that the area we have gone through thus far adequately covers even the part about dissolution collectively of the STEM Advisory Committee when it's no longer performing duties.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. I would think D suffices to cater for that. But if the committee feels that it does not cover, because remember, this is just an advisory committee.
Yes. Just go to D.
D.
Yeah, 14D. That's what
14D. Yes.
Yes. Please go there.
Come again, Chair?
No, we want to get there now so that as you speak, we can see that you are saying is adequately covered.
Yes. As I was saying that, I think that is covered because it will be just an individual that is acting out of tune. And like I say, it is just an advisory committee which can be removed by the operation of the law, as it is catered there. The term of that committee when it expires.
So, I don't think we are on the same point. The understanding is that you are talking to individuals here. But now I'm asking a question about a dysfunctional collective of the standing of the STEM Advisory Committee as a result of actions of those individuals. It can't correlate, but there will also be other fights internally. Because it's not like, yes, they are an advisory committee, but the task, and that's the reason they are in the law, the task given to them about recommendations they make, which the minister anyway finally approves. I think there's a reason they are put up. But if they are not functional, it means all those tasks are unable to be executed. So I was asking it in that context. But if the thinking is that the adequately covered.
Can I come in, Chair, as well?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think, Chairperson, what my colleague is saying, my colleague has raised a very important point. That firstly, we're not dealing with a board here. We're dealing with an advisory committee, Chair. So, of course, regarding the bar in terms of measuring the two, it's a completely different one. The second point, Chair, is that if you read 14D, it says the minister may remove a member. Now, a member, Chair, like a person, may refer to members or persons. So, for instance, if you read 14D, on account of inability to perform the duties of that member's office effectively. Now, even though members, Chair, with an apostrophe above R refers to one, but if you remove that, Chair, it refers to members. So, in other words, Chair, if you agree with my proposition that member also refers to members of the advisory committee, I think, Chair, 14D takes care of it. We can debate it, Chair, but of course that's
no, the intention is not to debate. They are now giving another angle to it. For as long that
intention is understood, because you don't want also a situation where the minister is hamstrung, or the board itself is hamstrung on doing its work because that advice is not coming through because of dysfunctionality. And if you explain it in the way you are saying, it's fine. I just wanted to be sure that it's adequately covered and not seen in operation. That's probably an omission. No, I think with that, we can then get back to the amendment to section 17. Section 17.
Hey, can I come in?
Yes, Honorable Bolan.
We are done with the stamp advisory.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Chairperson, I reserved my participation on the issue of the stamp advisory, mainly because as you would have said a couple of times, the mandate was given in the 2019 elections and the numbers are against me. But that being said, I think the DA, we just want to register our objection to the establishment of the Stamp Advisory Committee in totality, mainly because it is a contradiction to the South African Post Office strategy of tomorrow, where we are appointing and approving an addition of a committee that is going to oversee a system that has become absolute in terms of the stamps. I don't think South Africa is a nation that is so big on stamps that we should actually have a committee advising the minister on stamps, especially considering that there are people who have lost their jobs at SAPO. Now we are adding another bureaucratic layer where SAPO would need to, there would be an outflow of money to cover the cost of the sittings of whether it's 4 or -4 or 12, but of this committee. So for all intents and purposes, it is a very redundant structure to have with the state that SAPO is at this point. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Polani. I'm not sure if there's any member who still want to speak on part 1 of the Stamp Advisory Committee, the section. If not, would note what you've raised, Honorable Polani, but you would know this one is really not on the 2019 outcomes, but more a point that we do not look at SAP today, like I said. We're looking at it futuristic, and as we do that, our post office is also linked to international bodies, and there would be requirements for what you will call a post office, even with changing times. So keep that in mind, that it's also both at those levels. In the previous committee meeting, we were given a sense that even the international body is looking at the South African post office and the interventions that are to be made to also set the tone for the continent, and what they can learn from such process. So we note the point. Can we move then to, I see that members will be pressed for time to get to their passes, but let's still conclude this work. On section 17 of the Principal Act, it's hereby amended by the substitution for subsection 1 of the following subsection. Subsection 1, the appointment of the Chief Executive Officer. Then you see the omission there, Chief Financial Officer and Chief Operating Officer. So it means the appointment of the Chief Executive Officer is subject to the conclusion of an annual performance agreement with the board, as post office is also now the omitted one, and insert the board. Can I get an indication on section 17 amendment? Have agreed, members?
Chair.
Yes, Honorable Tekane.
Agreed, Comrade Chair.
Agreed. Can we then move to amendment of Section 25 of the Act 2011? Section 25 of the Principal Act is hereby amended. A, by the substitution in subsection 1 for the words preceding paragraph A of the following words, subsection 1, the minister may direct the board, as post office is now omitted, then the board inserted, to take any action specified by the minister if the post office, and maybe that's the part you would also clarify if that wording is correct. If the post office subsection, paragraph B, by the substitution for subsection 3 of the following subsection. 3, if the post office, which is now omitted, then the board is inserted. Fails to comply with the directive contemplated in subsection 1 within the stated period, the minister may, paragraph A, after having given the board a reasonable opportunity to be heard, and B, after having afforded the board a hearing on any submission received, replace the members of the board. As you see, there is also omission in the same manner as the departing members have been appointed, so that would be omitted now. We'll then say, or where circumstances so require, appoint a person as administrator to take over the relevant function of the board as post office omitted. On C, by the substitution in subsection 4 for paragraph A of the following paragraph. That paragraph A, the administrator may do anything which the board might otherwise be empowered or required to do by or under this act. Of course, there's those omissions, post office, and the exclusion of are now omitted. On D, paragraph D, by deletion of subsection 4, paragraph B, and E, by the substitution, subsection 5 for paragraph B of the following paragraph, paragraph B, within 12 months, as now 6 months, in 12 months of appointing the administrator, table a report on his or her findings in the National Assembly. And F, by the substitution in subsection 7C for subparagraph Roman figure 2 of the following subparagraph. So, Roman figure 2 must, as soon as it is possible, but not later than 12 months, so the 3 months, 12 months after the dissolution of the board, replace the members of the board. So there's omission there in the same way, and that in accordance with section 11. That's the section. Can I get an indication? Paragraph A, B, C, D, E, and F. Can I get an indication?
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed. Then we get to the subtitle and commencement. 12. This act is called the South African Post Office SOC Ltd Amendment Act 2023, and comes into operation on a date to be determined by the President by proclamation in the Gazette. I take it that's
well read,
okay.
Chairperson.
Thank you. I just want to go back quickly. I'm like Honorable Bodlani, a bit mixed up sometimes. I think there's something I didn't get there. Can you go to the amendment in section 4 up there to look at T?
Chairperson, you said section 4.
Yes, I think it's 4. But it's a T.
It's clause 3, Chair. 3.
Pardon?
It's clause 3, Chair. 3.
3.
Yes, Chair.
Yes, then that's section 4, yes. Can you go to T there? Yeah, I think this is the point I also thought I should ask. When you look at it, it is about being responsive with regard to the business in terms of needs for customers and citizens. I know that the emphasis was on that exploit, which you legal said would come back. Then look at forging partnerships and so on. With the approval of the minister, I think the point I wanted to raise there, maybe legal will assist whether it's a matter that probably comes in the regulations that may follow or what, or it should be specified in the Act. Just some lessons at local government level. There's been the issue about appointments of executives, including a municipal manager, and you must get concurrence from the MEC. And because there was no specified period at the time, you can sit for quite some time not having that concurrence, which brings a bit of instability and uncertainty on people. As we get to Parliament, the issue about the MEC Charter has been on the table also for some time because it needs such approvals. I know with local government there's been such proposals on amendments to put timelines. The post-bank bill, we did the same. I think we gave timelines that if by a particular period you don't get any feedback from finance minister, it's taken as automatically approved. Now I'm raising this because it's about, in fact, the crux of this amendment is about the responsiveness of the post office and the partnerships they need to create in order to stay in business. Whether the issue of putting at least timelines, the turnaround period for the minister's approval, and in the absence of that, at least an understanding that you would have had an automatic approval on those. Firstly, it is to push those that need to make decisions to take that seriously and make such decisions, but also understand the implications of not making such decisions. That business continuity has to be there, but they may own up to things that they may have not applied their minds on. So this is the question I wanted to ask on this one. That if it's left open like this and there's no timeline, is it a matter that gets to be dealt with? Maybe in regulations where you can measure the time it takes to turn around that situation, given that this law is an intervention in a collapsing post office. And partly it is also the decision making that took long in some instances that has also contributed to us making interventions very late to a point that you can't save the post office anymore with such intervention, but you have to now take it to another level, like the business rescue have. So I wanted to ask that question, but if you think it's covered there, and maybe it's a matter of it being operational, you can indicate. I was just worried about it being open-ended with no time for turnaround. So I'm not sure, Ligan, whether you think it's a matter that's more operational that can be dealt with at that level of regulations or anything that follows after that.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, I'll address two things, but you've already helped me, Chair. And I think you are sitting on the wrong side of the divide, Chair. You should be sitting on this side. Remember, there was a yes, Chair? No, that's a tongue-in-cheek comment, Chair. I'm trying to say you helped me regarding the taking out of the word exploit. And you said we can put something like leverage on, and I'm saying I agree with that. And the second point, Chair, is that you're quite correct, Chair. Look, once a bill of this nature lands here, Chair, it becomes our responsibility, I mean, as the committee, to effect changes to it, as long as those changes are reasonable and constitutional. And I think, Chair, you're right in terms of saying the executive should not be given a blank check. I think we need to stipulate time periods. So whatever, that approval, Chair, must be time bound. And I think at the next committee meeting, Chair, we can come with proposals, Chair. But it would also be interesting to hear what my colleague from the State Law Advisor's Office says. Because remember, she is also advising the department on this issue. Thanks very much, Chair.
Ms. Vero?
Thank you, Chair. Remember, I just want to bring to the attention of the committee. This this section that is being amended is is where the Act lists the duties and mandate of the post office. So this is a function or mandate of the post office. So whatever it is done, this a time frame or what, it can be given to, it can be mentioned in the actual function, in the actual provision that is covering whatever that has to be done by the post office and the minister's approval. But it's the list of functions that are to be done by the post office. As you can see, that provide any business that is responsive to the needs of users, consumers, and citizens, and exploit the infrastructure capacity, and so on and so on, until the approval of the minister. This is the function that I want to emphasize, Chair. It is the function. And coming to the word of exploit, in drafting, you choose the word that will have an impact and an effect. If you consult the dictionary, the exploit there is to take advantage of the infrastructure. But you cannot go any further to put all those words when there is a word that encompasses everything, like take advantage of, maximize the infrastructure, that is another word that you can use. But exploit, that is on my part, captures exactly what the department wants to do or to highlight in that provision. But I'm not against of any word that may be suggested. Otherwise, it's to take advantage of the infrastructure. That's all that is meant by that provision, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. I take it that members would keep this in mind, because I had 30 days, like it is consistent with others, about gazetting and all that. That you look at the 30 days data approval, so that it's known once that expires. Automatically, it means the post office is able to proceed to discharge that mandate that's given to them in a way that's responsive to what the market expects. So that this was the point I thought I should get clarity on and clarified, and we have already dealt with it. Of course, if the wording finally is gonna be explored with this understanding that it refers to taking advantage. In fact, it is that explanation that Honorable Dakan didn't want to utilize it. It reminds of the past. But the explanation given is that you look at the word that has enough force to effect the change in that regard. So when we get it back, I think would have been advised whether leverage, whether you exploit. It's fine. So please help us with the wording with regard to turnaround times, because in the other clauses there is turnaround time on certain things that need to be done. What I then need to check at this point, it's whether the discussions we've had and the amendments we've had would require that the memorandum be adjusted or not, or whether it's a matter you'd want to go back and look at, so that probably we then take up the memorandum together with the bill that has affected what the committee has discussed. May I check on that so that I can then roll on whether we proceed to get the memorandum or we take it the next time. Legal.
Looks, I haven't gone through the memorandum, Chair, and I know that members did that as well. There's a very strong synergy between what it says and what the amendment bill says. So there's no variance, Chair. I've gone through it, and it's not asymmetrical to what the bill says. So we don't need to go to read the memorandum clause by clause, because it merely tells us what clause 1 does and so on and so on. That would be my view, Chair. Thanks, Chairperson.
No, I think with that having been said, honorable members, because I'm also looking at the time, is that this is the same memorandum we've used in any way public meetings. I'm saying in terms of understanding generally what the bill is about, and said that there's no difference anyway between that and the bill. I want to rule that we really get the amendments done, and that in the next meeting, I hope we'll be able to get that through. That in the next meeting we get the amended version, and as we take the process forward, we then look at that memorandum. Because in the remaining few minutes before we lose those that go physically to the house, we would have also dealt with minutes Are you comfortable with that, members?
Hi, Chair.
Yes, Mr. Ngoma.
Good afternoon, Chair. I'm not sure if Chair Ms. Matrosi was able to pass on the message through to you, the one that she had sent me. I just wondered if she could.
I've not seen a message on the chat. Yeah.
No, I see she's on the platform that she's sent it on WhatsApp, a message that indicates that she couldn't press her gadget as it was stuck. So she wanted to clarify something, that the IFP doesn't deserve its rights, but will need to get a mandate from the caucus. That was the message that she sent to me at the time. The pity it just came through now, but it was sent at 12.
Okay. No, I've not. Yes, I've not seen that. That should still need to consult. But in any way, like I said, we'll still come back to look at also the amendments to be effected. But at this point, we do note those concerns or the points that parties want to be placed on record at this point. With that having been said, I take it that there's no objection, honorable members, that would look at the memorandum again as we look at the amended version of the bill that takes our inputs as the committee into account. Agreed.
Yes, agreed, Chair.
Yes, Chairperson.
All right, if that's agreed, thank you, Mr. Ekan and Ms. Lulu. We take it that you would be with us throughout till we are done with this part of the work. I would not keep you on the platform as we deal with minutes of the committee if you wish to really float from the platform.
Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you. We now take the minutes of Tuesday, the 31st October 2023. So move first so that we don't go back. Okay, can I move? Can I get a move 1 second? Can I get a move 1 second?
I move. Yes, I move, Chair.
A second, Honorable Chair.
Now, 10 seconds. An objection now is adopting the minutes? No objection, the minutes are agreed to. Take it that was the last item, right?
That's the last item, Chair.
Yes, honorable members, thanks for your contributions. As we move forward, let's continue to do that. The meeting stays adjourned until we meet again. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.